So my presentation is titled Atrocities Through Art because it sounds cool and you'll find out how it's related. I read the article by Yalitza Aparicio, who is like a mixed-sex Mexican woman, and she's also like a famous actor who acted in the play Roma by Alfonso Cuarón. She played Cleo, who's like a mixed-sex indigenous Mexican woman and also like a maid, and it was like her life story during the 1940s. And interestingly, she was raised by a single mother who was also a maid, so she kind of has like a personal connection to that. And her art, or her message, was that art is like used to express hardship and like the stories of marginalized people who like don't have their stories told often in like the media and stuff. I related her claim with Dorothea Lange's work, who was like a documentary like photographer sort of. It was like photojournalism is like the term they were using. But she like photographed migrant workers and like migrant farmers during the Great Depression mainly, as well as Japanese internees during World War II. And her work was so influential that it's like hanging in the Library of Congress, which I guess is like an important government building or something. So my first photo by Lange is The Migrant Mother, taken in 1936. The title kind of tells you who it is, but one thing that I like instantly was drawn to is like the facial expression. You can clearly tell like there's a lot of strife and like struggle going on in her life. The fact that her kids' faces are like turned and not really facing the camera is also kind of like symbolic of how like despite her efforts to like share all the stories, like there's a lot of stories that go untold even in this like in this horrible situation of like poverty and like being a migrant without money. And the final thing about this photo is like the lines are really messy and like there's not like a uniform kind of shape to it, which is kind of like representing like it showed by like the ragged clothes and stuff, and it shows like, you know, like the struggles they have to go through, like not having enough money to buy like nice clean clothes and stuff like that. My next photo doesn't really have a title, it's just kind of like the name of where it's taken, but it's of a Japanese internee at the start of World War II, 1942, and it's like this elderly Japanese woman. She's lifting up her glasses and wiping tears from her eyes since she's on a train to go to like the internment camp, which is obviously pretty horrible. One thing that I like, one artistic feature of this is the lines, and they're kind of like moving diagonally down towards like I guess where the train is heading and where the passengers are facing, which is kind of showing like a descent to like a darker place and how like the future was uncertain and where they were going is like lower than where they are now. I also noticed like the interior of the train is like really dark, which is obviously it's like kind of like a bad vibe, and the people in there are really like they're thinking. The woman herself is crying and like it's a horrible situation. Also, there's like numbers. I was a little confused by the 3 at the bottom because it seems a little out of place, but I'm gonna assume it was like part of the actual photograph and it was on the train. But all the numbers in general kind of are symbolic of how like these people were not treated as like humans, but they were kind of reduced to like, you know, letters and numbers, and it's like not really, it's like dehumanizing, and that's like sort of represented as 461. It's like they're not being treated as humans, I guess. Final photo is the migrants camp, and this is back to like Great Depression and stuff, but it's this migrant worker, and I instantly noticed like the main thing is like he's leaning on this tire. It's kind of symbolic of like how it's tough to support himself, and he often needs to like lean on like his work and his job, and that's like a big part of his life. He's even being overshadowed by like this truck, which is sort of like representative of how like their whole life can be kind of overshadowed by the work that they have to do just to survive. And also in the background, like it's really bright, so it shows kind of like outside of like the struggling workers, even during the Great Depression when it was a tough time, like people were still able to prosper and stuff. But for these people, like everything in their life was just dictated by the work that they had to do just to survive, and like it's like really, really tough. So yeah. In conclusion, the connection is basically that Dorothea Lange kind of exemplifies Aparicio's claim that like the purpose of art is to shed light into like injustices, inequalities of marginalized groups, underrepresented peoples, and she did that through her photography, like showing what's normally not shown in her works made into the newspaper, which is kind of showing, or is like doing exactly what Aparicio believes art to be. That's like think it's really powerful. And I also included this photo since I think something that wasn't in Lang's work, but is kind of in Aparisio's work, is also the triumphs of underrepresented people. Obviously, this is not the most excited photo, but like the woman's kind of doing like a fist bump. You know, they don't seem like totally like down and like emotionally like destroyed. You know, like they still have hope and stuff. So I think that's like an important thing that I didn't really have in like most of the other Lang photos. But yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you. And audience reactions.
And then maybe.
I can tell you were very well prepared, not needing any note cards.